Hi, I'm Mary Alice, and welcome back to Change Your Aim. And as you know, I believe that if you get rid of the shame, you can change your aim. That's what I'm about, and that's the information I like to share that can help us all move forward in life. Because I believe that hidden invisible shame from our past keeps us from succeeding and causes self-sabotaging habits and beliefs within us from achieving the goals that we want and the dreams that we dream and would wish and hope that could happen for us. Well, what I want to talk about is boundaries, healthy boundaries. When we have healthy boundaries, we can develop great relationships with people, and we can help ourselves have a great relationship with ourselves. When I think of boundaries, we think of the fences along our neighborhoods, and it draws the property line between each home, and we know who lives where and what belongs to who, and it's very concise. And it can be very beautiful. Fences can be very beautiful. And we've seen fences that are rotting and falling down and not showing the property line. Maybe it's even just gone altogether. Weeds have developed and it's not well taken care of. Well, just like we can see that in neighborhoods, that can happen within us. And it's important to take a little bit of time to figure out our boundaries. How do we cope in life? If we grew up in a way in our homes where we had to develop coping mechanisms that helped us back then to just survive or thrive or just get out in the world and pretend what was going on at home was never happening, as adults, they don't work for us anymore, those coping mechanisms, but we keep using it. And I'm going to share with you a couple extremes, okay? An extreme codependent person where the boundaries as a child were just annihilated. They had no say. They couldn't say no. It was maybe authoritarian parents, or maybe they were, kids who are beaten or sexually abused, verbally abused, whatever the case may be. As they grow, the coping mechanisms that they had to develop no longer work for them. But what happens is they develop these coping mechanisms where it starts these very strong internal habits of relating to other people. So the codependent person will have a very hard time establishing relationships where they can't express themselves. They have a hard time saying no. They have a hard time with understanding that they have the right to express themselves. They take on everybody's feelings, like they're responsible for everybody's feelings. They don't realize that only that individual is responsible for their feelings. They're overly nice. They don't know how to say no. Maybe they volunteer for everything because they don't know how to say no. They may find their identity in always volunteering and seeing it more as an obligation rather than coming from the heart. Most of us always like to give and to help and to volunteer, and when it's coming from a genuine place, it's just wonderful. But when it becomes a form of identity, and you're the go-to person, and everybody's asking you to do this and that, and you don't know how to say no, and you're feeling burned out and overwhelmed and a little bit resentful, that is it is a codependent person. They're the ones who will marry the abusive partner, or someone who drinks, becomes an alcoholic or is a drug addict, and they think they can fix them with their love. Or it doesn't work that way. Life doesn't work that way, but that's their belief system because that's what they knew growing up. Well, then we get to the other extreme of a person who becomes very hardened, very mistrustful, very not vulnerable in the least, sarcastic. Their jokes are more jibes, just trying to get back at somebody. Perhaps racist, perhaps labeling everybody, because they have to identify with putting people down in order to feel better. They're hardened and they're fearful, and a lot of that comes from fear behind that. And they want to have this, for men it's like real macho, and they can't be vulnerable, and everything's hard, and everything's mean, and everything is, blood, guts, and gore, and just this, the kind of person I'm talking about. And again, I'm talking about extremes here. So you have these extremes of, real codependent, and then real angry and hardened. Well, in the middle there's a lot of us in one way or another. And it could come through in one aspect of our lives over another. Like some people can be very successful business-wise, but relationally they're struggling. Socially they're struggling. Spiritually they're confused. Whatever that might be. When we have healthy boundaries, we know that we can establish, and it comes from a strong sense of self. Now, for me personally, I believe the strong sense of self comes from a very strong sense of awareness and spirituality and the balance thereof. So when I talk about boundaries, I think of our physical boundaries. Physical boundaries meaning, when it's cold, we wear our coats, we take care of our bodies, we are protective of who touches us and who doesn't, appropriate touching, inappropriate touching. We're very conscientious of the no's and the yeses on that end. We have our homes to protect us. So the physical boundaries are obvious. Emotional boundaries might be a little harder, and this is where that's very important. Emotional boundaries, it's important to protect yourself emotionally, especially if you're very sensitive to something. Don't go watch violent movies if you're sensitive to them. Keep your emotions in check. If you need help, if you find you have high highs and low lows, seek out help, seek out information to get help for that, because you want to create boundaries for yourself that are strong and permanent. So protect yourself emotionally from toxic people, from environments that aren't purposefully helping you, but rather hurting you. We don't want that in our lives to the best of our ability. And we need to protect ourselves mentally. What are we thinking about? How do we talk to ourselves? How do we talk to other people? What's the language we use? It's very important to use positive language. It's very important to be gracious with yourself. So if you do screw up, I'm just such a screw up. I can't get anything right. Well, if you keep telling yourself that will happen. You won't get anything right. If you're gracious with yourself and tell yourself, you know what? I didn't do that right. I'm going to learn from that, and the next time I'm going to do better. That's positive. You are growing healthy, strong boundaries within and without. And the boundaries spiritually, like I mentioned, I know a couple people who grew up in such toxic religious homes. It's so sad. And so they had this skewed view of God. And they had to really work at changing that in their lives and learn who God really is for them, the loving, gracious God that God is. And just be aware of all these aspects of your life and think about the boundaries that you would like to create that are healthy for you. And you have that permission to do it. You have that right. Some women that I worked with didn't even realize that they had the right to build healthy boundaries for themselves. And again, I want to stress there's some great books out there that talk about the subject. I'm sure there are counselors that can help you with it. Whatever you need to do, if you find that you're really struggling and your life is off balance, you need to check your boundaries within and without. And in the meantime, I hope you are having a good day. And I hope that I've been able to share some food for thought only to make you better in life, only to make you happier in life, and to achieve the goals that you would like to achieve. Because again, get rid of the shame, you can change your aim. And every day in every way, you are getting better and better, and just remember that. Thank you for listening. I really appreciate your time. I hope you subscribe, and please leave a comment below. If you want to work with me, I would love to have that opportunity. You can contact me at maryalice.changeyouraim@gmail.com, or another way is changeyouraim.com. Take care and God bless.